Hello, my name is Kyla Wright, and today I'm going to be talking about the city of Seattle, Washington. Seattle does have a very rich history as well as amazing food and a really great art and music culture. Starting off with the history, Seattle is a city that was built on hills and it is surrounded by water, which boosts its vegetation. White settlers came to Seattle in 1851. Shortly after they came, the village was named after a Duwamish Indian leader. His name was Seattle. The white settlers and Seattle himself became really good friends, thus the city being named as such. Some of the really important industries there in Seattle are lumber, coal, and they were the primary industries there. Fishing, shipbuilding, and wholesale trade did come into the picture slowly but surely. And due to its economic growth, Seattle did become very, very large in population as it is today. Along with the large amount of population, that population is very diverse. Starting in the early 1900s, transcontinental railroads reinforced the city's trade system, thus bringing in a ton of new people such as Scandinavians, African Americans, as well as the Japanese, all looking for work there in this new prominent city. Moving on to my next point is the food in Seattle. One of the main things Seattle is most famous for is, of course, Starbucks. Starbucks was first opened in Seattle on March 31st, 1971. It was opened by three college buddies who went to the University of San Francisco. They decided to open a coffee shop, and lo and behold, Seattle was born. Another very prominent place there in Seattle that has to deal with food is Pike Place. The first Starbucks was actually opened in Pike Place, and Pike Place is a public market that sells fresh produce, seafood, as long as specialty foods, and various vendors are there that sell all types of goods. It sits on 9 acres of land and overlooks Elliott's Bay, which is a beautiful body of water. Some of the specialty foods there are exotic coffees and teas, as well as really cool cheeses and, of course, over-the-top seafood. When I visited myself, there was a lobster tail about this big, and it was for a reasonable price, I thought. Another really important part of food in Seattle is, of course, the pho soup. It is one of the most famous foods you'll find there. On every corner, you will find a pho restaurant. The soup includes a broth, which has rice noodles in it, various meats and seafood, and fresh vegetables. This is a Vietnamese soup, and just as we discussed earlier in the diversity of Seattle and its history, that came from the Pacific and made its way here through the transcontinental system, and it just became very, very popular. Moving on to my last point, which is the art and music culture in Seattle. Seattle is home to various museums. It has aviation museums, history museums, but none are more important than the art museums. The most prominent art museum, or the most popular art museum there, is the Seattle Art Museum, which is abbreviated SAM. SAM does have a casual but sophisticated setting, and it is surrounded by powerful artistic expression. So artists themselves or art fanatics come there to be inspired or just to relax. It's a very nice environment to be in. Another great part of the Seattle art music culture is the Seattle Symphony. It is located at the Benrora Hall, and the symphony does have over 200 performances a year, which is a lot. They play from classical music all the way to pop music, and they do have some type of children's programs that do happen there from time to time throughout the year. In conclusion, Seattle is a very, very, very exciting and cool city, very diversified, and it remains as such as well. I enjoyed myself a lot there in Seattle, and if you ever get the chance to be there as well, I'm sure you will too. Thank you. Bye.